All right, all right. Well, happy Sunday, first of all, everybody. And hopefully, you guys have had an excellent weekend. It's been just kind of a really quick one and a really strange one at that. Not bad, but just kind of all over the place, truthfully, and getting ready for another week. But did want to check in with you. I had a chance to read some books this week, so wanted to just kind of connect with you. These ones are not what was on the shelf necessarily, but instead wanting to talk about new to you comics. So this is a big, kind of a trending topic that was happening when COVID first kicked off. So thinking about books that have come out in previous years that you haven't read personally, that's new to you comics. So I have actually been working just nonstop, reading some fun titles that I've had. Whenever Rainbow does like the sales, I'm very guilty of just hitting that back stock, seeing what's out there and trying new things. And there's definitely just some random stuff in here that I personally have really, really, really enjoyed, and I've been just pleased as punch with. So looking forward to talking about that. I am just going to let this run for just a second here because with the live video, I like to share it really quick and get the word out a little bit. So if you guys do have any questions for me from the get-go, feel free to throw those in the chat, and we'll make this as fun as possible this evening. But again, my name is John from A Comic Book Look, and looking forward to talking some books. So first and foremost, you guys, this one is a very, very, very big blast from the past. No judgment, but I actually really love this title so far, and I think that I've probably read issue 1 in the past, but wanted to just revisit it because I had issue 2 as well. So I'm talking Ghost Rider 2099, and let me tell you what, these foil covers never get old. I just think they're so funny. It just telling. And with the X-Men one, the Spider-Man one, the Punisher one, I mean, these foil covers don't quit. But I also did read Ghost Rider 2099 issue number 2. Both issues were very entertaining. So just so you guys know, from a Marvel standpoint, I haven't read a lot of Ghost Rider anything. And so when you're throwing in all of that, supposed like, oh, this is how the world's going to be in 2099 with that cybernetic emphasis, it is a riot. It is so fun. It's very energetic. It's very angsty as well. So they do a really good job, I think, of bringing that character to life, and it is a lot of fun. On the 2099 front, I am a huge fan of the X-Men 2099 series. I think it's a lot of fun. So that team has appeared in future and in issues. X-Men Blue was probably the most recent, I believe. And so it's a lot of fun to see 2099 characters still matter. With Ghost Rider 2099, I'm not as familiar with. I would definitely be open to getting more issues and just kind of reading further into that. But just so fun to see 2099 period. And so for me, this is a treat. Definitely open to getting some more. But if we had to give a beer rating for Ghost Rider issues 1 and 2, probably hit them with a 4.5 or so because I'm still thirsty. I want to have some of that. It's really funny that I mentioned beer. I actually meant to get one before I started filming, but I was so excited to talk about comics that I literally did not. So instead, I'm stuck with my water. But overall, fun series. Up next, the guys at Rainbow, so thoughtful, so awesome. So everyone knows I love Galactus, like the cosmic thing. Got Silver Surfer hanging up back here in Eternity. And with Galactus, anytime there's a Galactus, anything, it could be a cover, a cameo, magazine, whatever. John from the shop is amazing and loves just saving me a copy and putting it in my comic book box and just sending that my way. So thank you, John, first of all. These next two are very random, and I didn't know how I would feel about them, but I'm pretty surprised by it. So I'm talking the Marvel Saga, the official history of the Marvel Universe. I got issue 1. I am a massive Alpha Flight fan, so you'll see Guardian hanging out down here getting his suit modified. There's mention of, Mac's interactions with Department H before Alpha Flight got started. Department H has always been kind of sketchy. I wish they would really get their act together. They've always just been kind of shady. So Marvel Canada, kind of a brutal place on the government sense. But love Alpha Flight. I got Alpha Flight wall over here. So that was kind of fun. I hadn't had a chance to read that before. Also in issue number 1, it features real in-depth, just getting into the history of the Fantastic Four. Had a chance to read that, in several issues, but it's just fun to see the retelling, and the artwork is just so timeless and fun. So definitely love it. Issue 1 is also interesting in the series because it opens up with it touches on basically every single title that's coming out. So it gives a nod to Daredevil, to Thor, etc., X-Men. So it's kind of fun to see from a marketing standpoint, like, oh, okay, Marvel, I see you. But I just, I see these when you're flipping through bins, and you're like, oh, this is going to be way too wordy. It had a little bit of reading to it, but I liked it. It was just kind of fun, so definitely recommend that one. But in addition to that, on the Galactus front, like I was saying, issue 24. So this was the origin of Galactus. Now, this is an interesting one because recently we had some more literature about Galactus come out in the Thor series. So if you haven't read the new run of Thor issues 1 through 5 or so, definitely recommend doing that. This was a lot of fun. It was really cool just to see the retelling of the origin of Galactus. I had no idea that the Watcher was involved with it. It might have been mentioned in other issues. I have collected several things that mention, mainly issues of Silver Surfer, Fantastic Four. But this really was that in-depth guide, and I really liked it. It was great. Artwork was spot on. It was fun. The cover is, first of all, just freaking beautiful. And we're spoiled with just some extra cosmic goodness on the back. So ultimately, issues 1 and 24. If I had to give a beer rating of these two, probably hit them with a straight 5.5. I need a little sip, but no worries. And then finally, I had a couple of issues of this, but I got a good portion of the run, minus 1 issue, which I was really bummed about, but terrific read. And that's going to be Marvel Comics Presents. Marvel Comics Presents. So Marvel Comics Presents is, first of all, a mouthful, but it really is just taking on a series of short stories, some of which continue on each issue. So there's 2 that were really steady Freddy's, which were Vanguard, and then Weapon Omega, which deals with Omega Flight, so Alpha Flight kind of spinoff. But in these Marvel Comics Presents issues, in addition to those stories, they'll have kind of little 3-parter, 2-parter stories, sometimes one-off stories. So like learning more about Hellcat Patsy was a lot of fun. There is an issue featuring Magneto and the birth of the Brotherhood, so seeing more of that historical context from the X-Men side of things. One of my personal favorites, actually, was Kazar with the Savage Land. So I didn't know Kazar had a brother that was like a jerk, first of all. So I didn't get that from the X-Men 90s cartoon, right? So that was really interesting. And then seeing him get together with evil dinosaurs as well as the mutates, which I totally know from the X-Men 90s cartoon, that was a fun nod to that. So I'm just starting to, kind of piece it together. It was a good time. I personally have not read a lot of Kazar. So it just, the Savage Land was never really an interesting setting for me outside of the X-Men cartoon. So that was a lot of fun. Overall, I would say that the highlights for me, though, from this whole series really was the Weapon Omega series. So that basically is talking about Weapon Omega, and he's the guy that killed Alpha Flight. So that's kind of dark. But it talks about Michael Pointer's journey through Department H basically being a jerk, modifying the suit, and trying to take control of him when they're claiming they're helping him. And he's super disturbed. And he's kind of he's basically being regarded as a power addict. U.S. Agent is a hilarious leader step-in for Omega Flight, and I assume he's always just been kind of a rotten character in some regard, kind of a C+ Captain America. But it's really funny just to watch this cobbled together team lightly work together. Sasquatch is in there lightly. So the whole thing was rather odd. I remember reading Omega Flight, and this does time out with that, I would imagine, to some extent. That was a very short-lived series, though, so it was really fun to get this additional content. I will say that when you see these Marvel Comics Presents, you have your 80th anniversary issues of oh god, what did I just see? Well, it's hiding from me right now. But 80th issue of Joker and Catwoman, where it has multiple stories in it. Recently, I just read Batman Batman 100 really didn't have that much, but Detective Comics 1027 was a great example of that. I used to not really care for that when it was just multiple things going on, different creative teams, etc. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. And that's one thing that I've learned about myself as a reader is that it's actually a lot of fun. Now, I am missing one issue from here, issue 11, which is really annoying to me. So I'm kind of bummed about that. But ultimately, I'm really thankful I had a chance to kind of soak that up this weekend. It was great reading. So those are the books that I've read recently. I am working through a mountain of books, you guys. Probably close to 300 to 400 comics, I think, that I have yet to read. So I certainly have my work cut out for me. We'll see how all of that goes. But moral of the story is this. Just because something's not like brand new on the shelves, definitely continue to thumb through those back issues. Take advantage of the sales, when Rainbow has them. And it's really interesting because Rainbow, it's not even just a free comic book day or a Christmas sale or whatever. Sometimes they just do it just because. So keep an eye on, of course, the Facebook page where you're at. Ask the guys, and see, hey, are there any, discounts coming up, or are there any right now? Never hurts to ask. It is definitely a lot of fun to read some of these historic pieces. And it's really weird calling comics from the 90s historic. It's also really weird. This Marvel Saga came out like when I was like 1 year old, so that's kind of cool too. But it's definitely been an informative weekend for sure. Loving that. Loving the compilation. So Marvel Comics Presents, if I were to give that one a beer rating, definitely a strong 6 out of 6 beers for showing me different arms of the Marvel U. But I hope you guys are having an excellent conclusion to your weekend and that your week coming up is awesome. Tom and I plan to be hanging out with you guys again on Wednesday night or later on in the week to talk about new books. But I'm going to go ahead and get back to reading and saving the world. And I better close it out too. I haven't done that in a while. So we'll do my do. And you guys know the drill as always. Keep it comics for sure, man. Boom.